Hey, we are just 7 days until the presidential debate in Philadelphia between Vice President Harris and President Trump. Both nominees getting ready for the showdown. Joining me now is Brett O'Donnell, a GOP debate coach. Brett, thanks so much for being with me this morning. You've twice been included in the list of 5 most important people not running for president, and you've been described as the best political debate coach in the country. So I don't know, you just must be chomping at the bit ahead of this Trump-Harris showdown. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think given that there's only going to be one debate, it's going to be the marquee event of the campaign. Most people think that whoever does better in this debate is going to give themselves the momentum they need to cruise into the rest of the election.
Trump, of course, is known for his zingers, name calling at times. Is that smart? And by the way, it's the reason that a lot of people either love him or hate him, right? Is that smart for him to stay on brand in that way next week? And what would you advise if you were consulting him?
Well, I think the biggest thing Trump needs to do is write 4 words at the top of his pad: weak, failed, dangerously liberal. And everything he says should point back to one of those 4 words in terms of attacking Kamala Harris. He should stay on offense, but they should be focused on proving one of those 4 words to be true, or all 4 at one time. He should not take the bait from her when she tries to insult him or bait him into attacking her personally, but rather stay focused on her issue positions. People know very, very little about Kamala Harris's record. They know very little about what she would do as president. He needs to be the one that educates them and tells them what America would look like under a Harris presidency.
Rewinding the button just a little bit, the 2020 vice presidential debate is really remembered, I think, primarily for one line. You remember when Harris delivered, when she told Mike Pence that she was speaking when he tried to interrupt her. She said, "I'm not finished yet." What's going to be the secret sauce for her to be seen as the victor at the end of that night? What does she need to do?
Well, I think for her, it is to goad the president into attacking her personally and to make it seem like he is being unruly on the debate stage, like he was in the first presidential debate in 2020. But if he debates like he did in the second presidential debate, is disciplined, stays on issues, and attacks her record, attacks her vision for the country, then I think he can have a good night, because that's the place she doesn't want to be. And so for her job is to shift the debate and make it about Donald Trump, to make the election a choice between her and him, and to make it about personality. He wants to make it about issues, and that's where he has to stay focused.
We know that, President Trump obviously debated Biden in June. We know how that ended up. He didn't feel the need to prep so much before that. Does she change the game here? Does he need to prep a bit more for the VP?
Well, I think you should prep for any debate, but for this debate in particular, one thing I'd be doing with him is throwing as many attacks at him as possible to let him feel like what the actual stage is going to be like, because I believe she will try to bait him as many times as possible. I think she'll do what she did to Vice President Pence and say she's trying to speak or whatever. That's why they wanted the microphones to be open during the debate, and President Trump was fine with the rules that were agreed to.
Yeah, we know that the rules of the debate include muted mics, to your point, no audience, no notes. Do you think either of the candidates have an advantage given those set of rules and guidelines?
I do. I think the rules last time advantaged President Trump. I think they're the same rules. I think they advantage him again, because they tend to keep him more controlled and more focused. And I think a focused President Trump showed in the first debate this past summer that he could be disciplined and execute. And I think if he's the same way, it'll frustrate Kamala Harris as long as he stays focused on issues.
Well, we will all be watching, as I know you will be too. Brett O'Donnell, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.